Over 360 million people speak English as their mother tongue, although English is numerically second to Mandarin Chinese, which can claim some 600 million native speakers. No one would seriously propose learning Chinese as a practical world language. In fact, the Chinese themselves are now busy implementing plans to learn English on a large scale. Not only would area, whereas English speakers, thanks to the British Empire, are to be found on every continent and in every corner of the globe. To a European, the English-speaking world probably means little beyond the United States of America and England. But when a European says England, he most likely means the United Kingdom, which of course is composed of 4 different English-speaking countries: Wales, Scotland, Ulster, also known as Northern Ireland, and England. With a bit more thought, a European will remember to include Eire, the Republic of Ireland, Australia, Canada, South Africa, and New Zealand, perhaps. But these are only 10 of the 45 countries which consider English their first or official or natural native language. In addition, there are 19 other countries for which English is the practical or educated first language. Countries like Guyana, India, and the Sudan. Most of the important African states are English-speaking by tradition and by choice, using English to unify the country and serve as the principal means of communication between diverse tribes. Kenya, Nigeria, Zambia, Ghana, Malawi, Tanzania. Just a few of the black African countries which depend on English for their law courts and parliaments and day-to-day business dealings. In Asia, the English language serves the same purpose for the entire Indian subcontinent as well as for the smaller outposts of the empire, now the Commonwealth, such as Fiji, Tonga, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia and Ceylon, or rather Sri Lanka as it is now called. The Caribbean Sea is sprinkled with islands in the sun: Bermuda, Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica, Dominica, the Bahamas, where English is spoken by everyone, black, white, or brown. English contains many variations of accent and even dialect, but unlike Italian or German, the dialects are rarely different enough to make comprehension impossible. True, a London Cockney would have a very difficult time in a conversation with a steel worker in Glasgow, and a Carolina cotton picker might find it difficult to understand and be understood by a sheep farmer from Australia. But a businessman from, say, Indianapolis, Indiana, USA, would have few problems dealing with a businessman from Dublin, Ireland, or Sydney, Australia, Auckland, New Zealand, Liverpool in England, Johannesburg, South Africa, or Kingston, Jamaica. A reasonably educated standard English allows comprehension and communication all over the English-speaking world. Can you guess where these native English speakers come from?
Big breakfasts have always been something the English-speaking world has had in common. What is known on the continent as an English breakfast. This is also true where I come from. We have bacon and eggs, as well as toast and marmalade, and tea, coffee, and often breakfast cereals like porridge and cornflakes.
On the continent, people are usually more formal, shaking hands a lot and calling each other doctor, engineer, professor, and all that. The English-speaking world tends to be more informal. We don't shake hands so much. We don't use academic titles. They're considered pretentious. And we prefer first names, not only for friends and colleagues, but often even the boss is Mike or John, and not Mr. So-and-so.
Where I come from, everybody understands, speak English, but the older people also speak patois. I never learned patois. I grew up only speaking English.
Ever since Lord Sandwich put meat between 2 pieces of bread so that he could eat while playing cards, the sandwich has been the basic lunch of most English-speaking countries. At least it's certainly true where I come from.
Political and social stability is something you find in nearly all the English-speaking countries. We all share a strong tradition of democratic government and a respect for the law. You don't find dictators, revolutionaries, or many extremists of any kind as a rule. Perhaps that's why there are no English words for fascism, coup d'etat, putsch, or junta. These are foreign concepts, so we have to use the foreign words.
Voice number 1,
And often breakfast cereals like porridge and cornflakes.
was an English-speaking South African. Voice number 2, often even the boss is Mike or John, and not Mr. So-and-so, was from the Republic of Ireland. Voice Voice number 3.
I grew up only speaking English.
Was a West Indian from Dominica. Voice number 4.
At least it's certainly true where I come from.
Was an American from the east coast of the United States. Voice number 5.
These are foreign concepts, so we have to use the foreign words.
Was from Australia.
But the geographical spread of the English-speaking world cannot entirely account for English being the lingua franca of the modern world. The industrial and technological achievements, mainly of Britain and the United States, has made English the international language of many different fields, like international air traffic control.
Bahrain Tower, this is Lufthansa 146, clear to descend to 1,500 feet.
This is Bahrain Tower. Roger.
Turning into final approach, runway 30.
Wind 320 degrees. 15 knots. You are cleared to land. Runway 30.
Sea navigation. The complex jargon of computers and space technology.
This is Tranquility. We're standing by for a go for a cabin depress, over. Tranquility Base, this is Houston. You are go for cabin depressurization. The hatch is coming open. Okay, Houston, I'm on the porch. Roger, Neil. Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now. At the foot of the ladder. Yeah, I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind.
And international business conferences.
I call on the delegate from Switzerland. I propose that items 11 and 12 from the agenda be postponed until the afternoon session of the conference. Is the proposal seconded?
I second the proposal.
The delegate from Italy has seconded the proposal.
Mr. Chairman, I ask to speak.
Yes, Mr. Garcia. Order, please. The delegate from Spain has the floor.
If the agenda is changed, will there be time for the delegate from France to address the meeting?
Monsieur Barrault's address on cash flow has been rescheduled to the Thursday morning session.
Then I agree with Her Majesty's proposal.
Any objections? Then we shall now adjourn for lunch. One more week of this.
Through the American Negroes, English became the language of jazz. English continues as the language of pop music throughout the world, not only from British and American pop stars, but as the chosen language of the Swedish group ABBA and the Spanish group Baccarat, and no doubt many others in other countries. The British enthusiasm for competitive sport has given the world soccer football, rugby football, golf, tennis, cricket, squash, boxing, competitive swimming, rowing, modern horse racing, and even ping pong. To this list, the Americans have added volleyball, basketball, and baseball. It is hardly surprising that English is the international language of sport, and words like corner, penalty, goal, KO, and smash are familiar in every language. Advertising is another field which is largely dominated by the English language.
In its modern form, advertising was an American invention, and the creative approach to advertising in most developed industrial countries shows the American influence in style and the use of language. Tom Boyd was on the creative side of advertising for many years, with large international agencies like BBDO, where he was creative manager. Tom, what about the use of English in advertising?
The language of advertising is simple and direct, yet it should be colorful and memorable. Advertisers like to use a lot of idioms that are familiar to the majority of the consumers in the chosen target market, plus the use of strongly emotive words. I remember when I began in advertising, I described a certain cake as yellow. My boss quickly told me that the color yellow doesn't exist in advertising. The word, he said, is golden.
During your years in advertising, you wrote a number of press ads and TV and cinema commercials for products as different as Shell petrol and Unilever detergents. As an American, did you have to adjust your approach and use of language for the United Kingdom market?
Absolutely. In the English-speaking world, the language may be more or less the same, but the usage varies from country to country. When the American agencies first came to Britain, they made the great mistake of trying to use the same copy and commercials that they had used successfully in the USA. Well, it simply didn't work. The lifestyle in the UK is different, the temperament is different, and the idiom is different. Of course, the British understood the advertisements, or as the Americans say, advertisements, but they simply didn't respond to them. In some cases, they were offended by them, or simply laughed at them. The US agencies soon realized their mistake and changed the approach to fit the British market. Unfortunately, some European companies are still making that mistake. I noticed not long ago a large Italian company advertising in the English press, the Times I think it was. The ad, or advert as it's sometimes called, had obviously been written by an American copywriter in New York, and no one had bothered to change it. Everything was wrong for the English. The style was too brash for British taste, the vocabulary was wrong, even the spelling was wrong for England. Any company which spends money promoting their products in the English-speaking world ought to be sensitive to their differences, or they may be wasting their money and actually damaging their products.
Can you give us an example of the language of advertising?
Yes, I picked a jingle I wrote. A jingle being a little song for advertising purposes. This one is for a chocolate bar, what the Americans call a candy bar. Market research told us that people like crunch. That is, something that makes a noise when you bite into it. People look for crunchiness in a good chocolate bar. Nougat or nuts, for example, make it crunchy. So that's why we named the bar King Crunch. Here's the jingle as it was recorded for radio and television.
Have you met my friend, the King Crunch? The nuttiest, the crispiest bar of the bunch. Rich milk chocolate and a whole lot of chew. A king that you can get those pearly teeth into. King Crunch, the royal munch that puts you in the pink when you're blue. So have a little fling with my friend the king. The chocolate, the crunchiest, the choo-choo-choo. King Crunch.
You notice how many words imply crunchiness. Crisp, chew, munch, get your teeth into, all to fit the marketing brief. Let's listen to a few lines at a time.
Have you met my friend, the King Crunch? The nuttiest, the crispiest bar of the bunch.
Nuttiest, crispiest, both superlatives, of course, the most usual form of adjective in advertising. Of the bunch. Bunch means a group of things, more commonly associated with a bunch of flowers, a bunch of bananas, and a bunch of grapes. But here it means a bunch of chocolate bars.
Rich milk chocolate and a whole lot of chew. A king that you can get those pearly teeth into.
Pearly teeth, a fairly common and flattering idiom, meaning teeth like pearls.
King Crunch, the royal munch that puts you in the pink when you're blue.
The royal munch. Munch means to chew with great activity. And if that's what the consumer likes, we tell him that's what he'll get. Now we come to some literally colorful idioms. Puts you in the pink when you're blue. In English, pink is the color associated with good health, and blue is the color of depression and sadness. So the line is saying that by eating a King Crunch, you'll feel a lot better.
So have a little fling with my friend the king.
Have a little fling. A fling is a spell of indulgence in impulse, according to the dictionary. Could be a love affair. The manufacturer certainly hopes so.
The chocolate, the crunchiest, the choo-choo-choo. King Crunch.
It sounds delicious. Where can I buy King Crunch?
I'm afraid you can't. When it came to the point of production, there were problems with marketing and distribution, and the bar never got produced. Or, as they say in advertising, it never got off the ground. You'd better have a Mars bar instead.
English is also the language of education. Throughout the Third World,
Most secondary education and virtually all university lectures are in English. Even in Europe, in countries as small as Sweden and as large as Russia, scientists and scholars of all kinds write their most important research and theses in English to guarantee the largest possible audience. And since the formation of the NATO forces, English has also become the language of the Western military establishment, the soldiers of all NATO countries being trained and taught in English. In addition, the English language can claim the most extensive and richest poetical literature of any language in the world.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines. By chance, or nature's changing course untrimmed, but thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou erst. Nor shall death drag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe, or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. William Shakespeare.
The Isles of Greece, where burning Sappho loved and sung, where grew the arts of war and peace, where Delos rose and Phoebus sprung. Eternal summer gilds them yet, but all except their sun is set. Lord Byron.
No man is an island entire of itself. Any man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. John Donne.
I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. William Wordsworth.
When I consider how my light is spent, ere half my days in this dark world and wide, and that one talent which is death to hide lodged with me useless, though my soul more bent to serve there with my Maker and present my true account, lest he returning chide. Doth God exact day labour, light denied, I fondly ask? But patience to prevent that murmur soon replies. God doth not need either man's work nor his own gifts. Who best bear his mild yoke? They serve him best. His state is kingly. Thousands at his bidding speed and post o'er land and ocean without rest. They also serve, who only stand and wait. John Milton.
Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky, like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of one-night cheap hotels. T.S. Eliot.
My heart is in the highlands, my heart is not here. My heart is in the highlands a-chasing the deer, chasing the wild deer and following the roe. My heart is in the highlands, wherever I go. Robert Burns.
Oh, to be in England now that April's there, and whoever wakes in England sees some morning unaware that the lowest boughs and the brushwood sheaf round the elm tree bole are in tiny leaf, while the chaffinch sings on the orchard bough in England now. Robert Brown.